long will the Earth be able to support the human population? This is a pressing question in today's society. Global warming and other environmental factors are degrading the Earth at a rapid rate. This causes one to look into other living options, for example, colonizing Mars. Such thoughts bring up the question, what implications will arise with the colonization of Mars?
Earth is approaching its carrying capacity. The Population Reference Bureau says that in 2050, Earth will have reached its carrying capacity for humans. Earth will have exceeded its carrying capacity. For the human race to survive, we need to distribute the population to help the chances of survival increase. A recent discovery has scientists especially focused on Mars. A physicist, Don Lincoln, summarizes that scientists saw reflections from deep underneath the planet's surface that indicate the presence of liquid water. Water is the elixir of life, and the discovery of liquid water on Mars gives humans one more reason to go to Mars. It also shows promise to permanent settlement on Mars if liquid water is there to stay.
With the current climate that is promising to cause havoc on Earth, colonizing Mars seems to be the optimal solution. Today, there are a series of treaties and laws that are created solely to keep peace for future space colonies. The Outer Space Treaty, composed by the UN, dictates that celestial bodies and space are free for all to roam and explore. It also prohibits the use and placement of weapons such as nukes on any celestial body or in space. This treaty prevents monopolies and war in space. But the ideals of each country are extremely different. Mixing global culture and laws can be problematic, especially when communist and capitalist countries come to play. Communist countries such as China and Vietnam do not have the same ideals as democratic countries such as America and Britain, which can cause conflict between citizens and control. This is why we suggest splitting Mars into provinces. Splitting Mars into provinces allows different countries to dictate how their colonies will run without the conflict of other countries. It would practically be a backup Earth. Each country with interest in colonizing Mars can have a section of Mars that is theirs to control. As a result, future conflicts can be avoided. Under the Outer Space Treaty, as previously mentioned, space is free for all to explore. It also says that whoever you fly under is whose jurisdiction you're under. With promises, this rule can be further embraced. The Outer Space Treaty also has a loophole that allows planets to be owned, which is discussed by a peer-reviewed journal by Linda Williams and the Space Review. Because only 6 countries ratified the Moon Treaty, a treaty meant to close this loophole, celestial bodies are free real estate. This solution would hopefully prevent the conquering of planets.
And since liquid water is only found in select spots on the planet, by splitting it up into provinces, this maximizes the space of Mars. By specializing the work done in each province based on geography, efficiency will increase. This will lead to the eventual autonomy and colonization of Mars.
However, there are many limitations to this solution, such as cultural divisions between colonists and resolving conflicts could prove to be difficult. Maintaining space treaties that were signed by Earth countries but not by colonists could be difficult because there is no justice system or courts established on Mars. Colonization is also not a certainty. Even if a colony is established, social debates between Earth and the provinces on Mars could arise, creating a high amount of tension. On the positive side, provinces will distance Mars from Earth politics, allowing them to escape wars and economic exploitation until they eventually become self-governing and self-sufficient. Socially, many people believe colonizing Mars is good, like Buzz Aldrin and Stephen Hawking. Buzz Aldrin, an American engineer and former astronaut, is on the positive side of the issue, advocating for space colonization. In fact, he believes humans will get to Mars in the next 25 years, according to an American journalist, Elena Samuels. Being an astronaut and going to the moon, Aldrin had experience with astronomical subjects, making him a good candidate to talk about colonizing Mars. Similarly, the late Stephen Hawking believed in the necessity of space colonization. However, he believed it would happen in the next 100 plus years, according to BBC News. In the event a colony on Mars is created, social debates on Earth and the provinces could arise, creating tension because 52% of the population oppose colonizing Mars. In the book The Martian by Andy Weir, an astronaut is stranded on Mars by himself and survives by growing potatoes. By turning this book into a movie, it shows not only that society is thinking of colonizing Mars, but that the whole world is interested in it enough for it to become a successful movie.
Even if the social and political systems work, there are still many logistical problems that we need to work out, one of which is timing. The greenish-yellow line in the graph represents the distance between Earth and Mars at different points during the years. And the minimum distance can be up to 5 times less than the maximum distance, greatly increasing the amount of time needed. With the minimum distance only happening 5 times in the next 9 years, it is important to optimize every single opportunity that we're given. In order to take advantage of these opportunities, we propose using a large rotating spacecraft to transport the astronauts that we would build in Earth's orbit and from there launch it to Mars. Space travel is both physically and mentally stressful for astronauts. According to Wire, a journalist with a background in biology, traveling off of Earth can throw off an astronaut's biological clock. This can mess up the astronaut. There can be technology on the rotating spacecraft to help mimic Earth's clock and save the astronauts. It can also be mentally stressful for the astronauts. It can also be physically stressful for the astronauts, with the reduced gravity, putting a lot of stress on their skeletal and cardiovascular systems. And the rotation can help mimic gravity, making them stronger.
Although this solution may solve many problems, it brings up more. Will it only orbit the planet? What will the spacecraft do once it reaches Mars? In addition, the immense cost of spaceflight is a major caveat, along with the time taking to build the spaceship. And that is all dependent on even if it works. For the colonization of Mars to succeed in helping the human race, Earth has to be independent from Mars. If Mars isn't independent, then colonizing Mars is simply a burden to both humans and Earth. In order for Mars to be autonomous, a compact food source must be implemented. In doing this, space is conserved during flight. Louisa Preston, an astrobiologist who studies outer planet colonization, proposes that, like in The Martian, plants such as potatoes, radishes, and asparagus have shown promise in Mars-like soil and atmosphere. However, this solution would not be the end goal, nor would it be permanent. This would only work until the colonies would become sustainable on their own. This said, splitting Mars into provinces not only shows autonomy of the planet and specialization of regions for efficiency, but also prevents Earth politics, overpopulation, and the most side effects for living in space.
And this is our work assignment.
Okay, a few questions for you. Grace, I'm going to start with you. Give one specific way that your thinking changed as a result of learning about Nathan's findings.
So when I learned about Nathan's findings and how stressful it was on the physical and mental capacity of the astronauts, it really made me think and relate more to my anti-colonization perspectives, the 52% of people who opposed. And so it really made me connect more with them, because at first I was like, why wouldn't you want to colonize Mars? And he really made me realize why you should.
Okay, and then next is for you, Bree. Reflecting on your colleagues' work, which one had the greatest impact on your overall understanding of the problem that your group identified?
I feel like Nathan's definitely had a lot of influence on my lens. I'm the futuristic lens, and so I was always finding things that were for colonizing Mars. And along with Grace, Nathan's findings really showed the drawbacks and also showed the alternates to making a spacecraft that can mimic Earth's gravity so that way our bodies aren't as affected by it. And so that's what I said.
Okay, next is for you, Mackenzie. What's an example of a compelling argument from one of your peers' individual reports that you decided to exclude from the presentation, and why?
A view that we decided to exclude was actually Grace's, and it was the view that people don't really want to. We did mention it briefly, but there was a lot more research that she had on it, and I also had some research on it. But we decided to exclude that because we didn't want to talk on the topic of going to Mars or not going to Mars. We just wanted to talk about how are we going to go to Mars and how are we going to make sure that everything runs smoothly instead of the social debate of should we actually.
Okay. And then finally, Nathan, what do you think was the strongest counter argument to the solution or conclusion that your team identified, and why?
Well, one that we identified was sort of the economic perspective about how it would just cost so much money to go to Mars. And Mackenzie, she talked about how it would just be more economically feasible to just fix Earth and not go to Mars, because although Earth is degrading, it just costs less to sort of put in reforms, put more money into sustainable energy rather than to move somewhere else.